Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. And I've put together the top 7 key market drivers I look at when analyzing a real estate market. Go to sethferguson.org to download your free copy. Our guest today is a real estate investor and mentor to business owners looking to grow and build a unique lifestyle. He's also the host of the successful podcast, Before the Millions. Daray Olaleye joins us today. Daray, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
My man, it is amazing to be on your show. I am blessed to be here. I can't wait to see if I could add some value to your listeners. And yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll, man.
Well, absolutely you can. I was recently a guest on your show, and you run an incredible operation asking some really good questions. So highly suggest everybody check out your podcast, Before the Millions.
Oh, too kind. Thank you.
Yeah. And so let's get into things. So tell us about your real estate goals right now.
My real estate goals as of right now, my primary goal is to help as many people as I can discover this amazing, phenomenal vehicle and use it as leverage to live the life that they want. That's been my number one mission for going on 4 years now, and I have not lost or wavered focus. I've helped a ton of people in the past 4 years, and I want to 10x that amount, the amount of people that I'm helping just get started with real estate, buy their first property, create their real estate vehicle, their machine, and then help real estate entrepreneurs as well who may not be into investing, but they have real estate service-related businesses, such as realtors and property managers and real estate entrepreneurs creating apps. There's a ton of people who are loan signing agents, helping people in the real estate industry really formulate a systematic way of growing their real estate business and using their real estate business to completely leave their W-2 day job. That's my number one passion.
Yeah. And you said you started that about 4 years ago. What happened to set you down that path?
Man, that is an interesting question. If you don't mind, Seth, I want to take it back way before that.
All right, let's go way back
to yeah. Let's go back in the time machine all the way to maybe about 11 years old, I believe. I lived in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house with my mom and my little sister, and we lived next to one of my mom's best friends. Her best friend had 2 kids as well. They were much older than us. So naturally, it was a guy and a girl. The guy was the oldest, and the girl was a little bit younger than him, but she was still much older than me. So naturally, when I used to go over there, I used to, we used to have fun, and I used to play video games with the son, and then with her daughter, she used to want to play Monopoly, and it was a foreign concept to me, but I immediately was intrigued and I immediately was engaged. And it's funny. But the first few months, she used to beat me literally every single time, Seth. Like, she used to beat me in Monopoly. I was just like, how do you figure this game out? I can't work this. Like, what is her magic? And then I started to realize quickly, the same way I realize in real estate now, I started to realize quickly how to put myself in a position to win. So I started looking at the board spaces with the most foot traffic, and I started looking at the board spaces with the highest rents. And again, things that I do today. And lo and behold, I went from losing every single game to her like, wow, like, you are a master of Monopoly. We need to go figure out how to get you in a tournament or something. This is crazy. And that's kind of, again, that was kind of my first foray, but I didn't think about real estate from the age of 11 to the age of 21, 22. Like, that was my first and last time of ever thinking that real estate was powerful. There's anything I can do with it. But what's funny is that I've always wanted to be a success. I didn't really know what that meant for me. A lot of people, like my little sister, for instance, she knew from like yay high that she wanted to be an OBGYN, right? She wanted to, she hasn't wavered from that in the past, I don't know how many years. Now she's graduating from Baylor. She has one of the highest MCAT scores like ever. Like, she's doing everything that she thought that she wanted to do since a kid. But for me, Seth, I never knew like what my calling was. I never knew what I wanted to do. I never knew where I was going to plant my flag. And it worried me. And I remember when I went to college, because I had no idea what direction I wanted my life to go in, I was just like, well, how do I get started down a path, because I need to get started down a path. Like, you have to choose a major. How do I get started down a path and still be okay to totally pivot if I ever figure it out? I was like, well, I'm good at numbers, and I guess I'll go be an accountant. Worst decision ever.
I don't think you have the personality to be an accountant.
Right. Worst decision ever. But here's what they told me, and here's why I thought it was a good decision. They told me to go find one of these firms, and it's like the Harvard, the Yales, the Princetons of accounting firms. They said, hey, there's a ton of accounting firms out there. Most of them are local. Some of them are national, but there's these 4. They are international. They are monumental. They are Harvard. They are Yale. If you ever get in one of these, like, you've made it. They're called the Big 4 accounting firms. They said, that's what you should set your laurels on. You should work there for the next 10 to 15 years. And at that point, you become what we like to call a partner. That means you buy into the firm and you have shares of the company. And at that point, you'd be making about $500,000 to $750,000 a year. I said, okay, I like this. This is the plan. Let's do this. So I studied hard. I worked hard. I climbed the ranks in so many organizations. I started sitting on so many boards at my university. I turned their 500-person organization to a 5,000-person organization, the largest organization at our university. Like, I went in, Seth. I was like, I'm going to make the cut. And luckily I did. I got a few offers from some oil and gas firms, but I knew that I wanted to be in Big 4 accounting. So again, the picture that they painted, hey, this is going to be the craziest, amazing life, right? You're going to get to travel. You're going to, like, we're sending you to all these exotic places, 4-star hotels, everything paid for, food galore, all the food that you want. Just don't worry about anything, gas, rental car, all that good stuff. Like, I was just like, wow, this is interesting. All that stuff got really old really, really quick. I started having disdain because I was working 70 hours a week, Seth. I started having disdain for the work that I was doing. I started having disdain for the lifestyle that I was living. Like, I'm a pretty healthy person. I like to work out. I like to stay fit. As accountants, you're not able to do that, not only because you don't have the time, but because you're getting constantly fed and bombarded with food all day, every day, because you're working around the clock. And you would think a trip to San Francisco would be the best thing in the world. Like, I love San Fran. I always love to go to San Fran, right? But as an accountant, going to San Fran was like sitting in my cubicle in Texas, because there was no sunlight. There was no, I get to sightsee. There was none of that. I was working from 7 a.m. to 2, sometimes 3 a.m. I was working nights and weekends. Yes, I was working Saturday and Sunday. And it's one of those things to where it will drive you crazy. So I was in a moment in my life, so I was just like, and I do apologize for the thunder. Like, we have a severe thunderstorm going on right now. Like, Beaumont, everywhere is flooded. Like, people's properties are getting ruined, and I'm sitting in the middle of a storm, but we're recording because I'm committed. I love it. So anyways, I'm at this Big 4 accounting firm. I'm working a ton of hours, and there's no end in sight. Nobody told me when I graduated from college. Again, I hadn't had a full-time job before, like a real full-time job. This was my first foray into corporate America. Nobody told me, and I was so shocked when I got my first check. Nobody told me that they were going to take half my money. Nobody told me. Nobody. Like, it was just an unspoken thing. Like, yeah, you didn't know? Like, literally, Uncle Sam took half of my money. I said, where's the rest of it? Like, I'm missing a whole half of my money. Where's the rest of it? Oh, yeah, Uncle Sam takes that. So I'm working. So now picture this. I'm working at a firm. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. For the first half of the year, literally, guys, if you're a professional, from January to June, you're working for the government. From January, like that, if I were to do, like, today, my stomach is turning thinking about it. That's madness. For you to work for somebody else for 6 months out of the year, it's not your money, like a whole half of your year, right? And then if you're fresh out of college, again, student loans, you may be paying rent. If you're not paying rent, you're paying a mortgage. You have credit card bills. You have a car note. All of that money goes to the bank. Set. So you mean to tell me that half the year I'm paying Uncle Sam, the second half of the year I'm paying the bank, and the whole year I'm working hard, paper pushing to make a company wealthy, and I have nothing to show for it. I have no money at the end. I have no pride at the end. I have no sense of fulfillment at the end. I have nothing. And I have to do this year in and year out. After year one, Seth, I was like, there's no way. There's no way. I don't know how people have done this for 40, 50 years. I cannot. This is madness to me. Right. And maybe it's because, like, how flexible things have been, or, I in college, things were so different. right? Like going back to the organizations that I built, like there was an organization that I started off as a volunteer, and I climbed up 6 different rankings to become the president of an organization, but it was a volunteer organization. And it was one of those places where I first realized that I can get paid to do what I love. Right. I was volunteering. I was helping coordinate volunteer opportunities all over Houston. Right. And I was getting paid to do this. Right. It was a paid position. And that was like, so once I experienced that type of freedom, once I experienced that, and I've been traveling all my life, like since 6 months old. Like I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, literally at my 6-month mark, not even maybe before then. I traveled to Africa. Went to go live with my grandparents. Like I've been traveling ever since. So I'm used to going from one place to another. I'm used to having the freedom to do what I want, right? Even after college, I took a whole year off just to travel the world. Like that is my number one passion, is lifestyle. So when you put me in a cubicle and you tell me I can't do anything, it's going to affect my psyche. So long story short, there was this one day, I called this woman my guardian angel. I don't know what she saw, what moved her to do this, but she walked up to me. She was like, Daray, there's this book I've been reading on my way into work every morning. And I just, something just told me to give it to you. Something just told me that you should read this book. Seth, I hadn't read a single book. There's more thunder.
that was a big one.
You heard that one? I hadn't read a single book my whole adult life. I had constantly tried to read 48 Laws of Power. I would start it, I would stop it. I couldn't read a book. It wasn't in me. After this book, and I feel like I'm holding off the name, it's so suspenseful, and you probably already know what it is, but after this book set, I went on to read a book a week. I read a book a week these days. I'm well over 100 books, right? There's practically almost no popular self-help book I haven't read, or a real estate book. Like I've read it all. And it all started from this one book. And this book, as you know, the little purple one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. When I say, Seth, I read this book and it gave me, it gave me the language I had been trying to speak for so long, and nobody understood where I was coming from. It gave me, like, it was the manual, the roadmap, like, here, like, this is what you've been trying to get out. This is what you've been trying to say. And here it all is in this book. I was like, oh my goodness, this is it. 30 days later, I bought my first investment property.
I love it.
And I want to highlight that because I don't know how many people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know how many people that know that real estate is a powerful wealth generating vehicle. I don't know how many people that have heard the quote, 90% of millionaires have made their wealth through real estate. How many people that are professionals that know that there are powerful vehicles like this that have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but have done nothing? Mm-hmm. My first time reading this book, I didn't have the foresight I have now, but for some reason, something told me that if I don't take action immediately, I'm going to end up like everybody else. 30 days later, I closed on my first property, having no knowledge of the investing terrain. 30 days later. And my mindset was that, I really don't know why and how it was like this, but it's what it is to this day. But my mindset was that, you know what, this may be the worst thing I'll ever do, but I've already made a decision to become a real estate investor. So whether or not this first deal is the worst thing I ever do, it's gonna be such a learning experience. Like I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fall flat on my face, but it's gonna be so awesome because like I'm gonna build on that. Like there's no turning back. So I had the opposite mindset that most people have. Like I'm scared to make a mistake. I'm scared to do like my first deal. I want to know all the things before I get started. Like what if it doesn't turn out? What if my tenants are terrible? I was like, dude, like I've already considered this a failure. I'm ready to learn and build on this. Luckily, Seth, it turned out to be a good deal. But I had the mindset that it was education. It was tuition, right? And that's what allowed me to do a deal so fast. Yeah. And I'm going to stop here because I feel like I gave you like a fire hose, right? So any thoughts, any interjections?
Well, I think the key thing is you decided to take action and you did it. Because what I found is, you get this too, people will call you up and say, hey, I want to get involved in real estate investing. But then they hold themselves back. They start overthinking things and they don't actually just do anything. So I think you highlighted a key point there. Make a decision, take action right away, and don't worry about it. Because even if you do fail, like you said on the first deal, you're going to learn far more doing that one deal than taking a college course for 4 years.
I love that. And it's something that most people have that fear. And I'm sure you've come across a lot of people who you've talked to a year, 2 years ago, they want to get started. And a year or two later, they haven't done a single thing, right? We're so caught up in this ready, fire, or ready, aim, fire mentality, right? And I kind of let the cat out the bag, but we're so caught up in this ready, aim, fire mentality. And that's okay when you're like hunting for like deer or something, right? Because, if you miss, if you let off a shot, like it's going to scurry off. But when you have a specific goal, when it's not there, maybe like it's target practice, right? Maybe you're shooting at a bullseye. That target doesn't move. So once you know your goal, once you know your target, you can fire as quickly as possible. So you can switch the ready, aim, fire to ready, fire, aim, because as soon as you fire that first shot, you're going to get feedback. You're going to get evidence of, oh, move a little to the left. Like, oh, the wind is blowing. Maybe I move a little to, like, you're going to get that recoil, right? So the faster you fire, the faster you'll get to your target, while everybody else is still ready, aim, firing, because maybe they don't know their goal. Maybe they're not sure if they can hit the deer. Maybe they're scared, right? But once you know your target and it's right in front of you, you fire as quickly as possible at that. And then that's the quickest way to get to your goal. Personally, that's what I think.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So have you developed any routines or rituals that have helped make you successful?
Yes. They have been refined over the years, and they will continue to be refined. I'm always trying something new. I'm always taking something out. I'm always adding something in my routine. And I'm always changing up my routine, right? I told you that I love to travel, and I feel like travel is a great way to reset from a rigid routine, which I'm very rigid in routines. So when I travel and I come back to wherever it is that I am, it's like, well, I have to reset. I have to implement something, or I have a chance to start anew. So it always gives me that I guess that blank slate. But some of the things that I've done over the years and some of the ways that my routine has transformed, they originally started with a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. He has a very formidable routine that many people can use to kind of like, hey, like I want to start my morning on a positive foot, meaning I want to do things like prayer. I want to do things like visualizations, like affirmations, like journaling, meditation, things like that. Like he has a whole system for you to kind of get through, like, hey, how do I have a perfect morning that extends beyond my morning, right, throughout my day? One thing that I noticed in a lot of people said is that we'll have this vision or we'll have this goal, right, of, let's just say, like, somebody wants to become a real estate investor, right, and they'll do an affirmation in the morning, and maybe they'll do like a quick meditation or something, but for the rest of their day, they're at work. They're at school, right? They're doing other things, right? And their normal modality, the thoughts that they're thinking of the other 99% of the day are focused on work, or focused on the possibility of not becoming a real estate investor, or focused on, oh, I need more money, or focused on all the negatives, right? And you only spent that 0.5% of your day focused on you becoming a real estate investor. And a lot of people expect that it's going to happen because they're doing meditations or they're doing affirmations. Well, that little percentage of your day is not going to have a major impact. You need to learn to live in your new world. Let me give you an example. I have a client, and she's a client of mine for the purpose of becoming a real estate entrepreneur, right? So she wants to, her goal is to make $10,000 a month using real estate. When I asked her in July what effort she's taking, like, let's just say she's cold calling. I asked her in July, I said, so what efforts are you taking this month to make sure that you meet your goal? She was like, yeah, so I think I've made anywhere between 10 and 15 calls. Now, I don't have to tell you any context. And if you're in any type of sales position, if you've done any type of door-to-door sales or anything, you know that making 10 to 15 of anything is not going to get you anywhere near your goal. So I asked her, I was like, do you believe that making 10 to 15 calls is really going to get you $10,000 a month? And she was like, well, you don't understand. Like, I'm a busy person. I have a full-time job. I babysit after work, and, sometimes I work overtime, and I have all these extracurricular activities I need to make sure are done. Like, I have people to look after, and I have to get sleep. I have to get 8 hours worth of sleep. Daray, you don't understand. Like, if I don't get 8 hours, if I get even just 7, like, I'm totally off. Like, I'm not the person you want to be around. Like, I cannot function. And she just had all these excuses. And I asked her, I was like, is that a belief that you need 8 hours worth of sleep? And she was like, no, Daray, you don't understand. Like, if I don't get 8 hours worth of sleep, I will not function. It's not possible. And I said, what do you think the people who get 4 or 5 hours worth of sleep, what do you think they tell themselves? What do you think they believe? Like, why do you think they're able to get 4 or 5 hours worth of sleep and function? Like, why do you think that is? What makes them different from you? She didn't have an answer. And I was like, the only thing that separates you and them, the only thing, there's only one thing. And that thing is that they believe it's possible. That's the only thing. Because your belief, whatever it is that you believe, you're going to see evidence of that in real life, right? Because your thoughts form your beliefs. And your beliefs, because you have those beliefs, whatever they are, beliefs are not facts. Beliefs are your beliefs, right? You're going to start to look for evidence of that. That's how our brains are wired, right? So if you believe that you're broke, you will see evidence. You're like, look, see, I told you, right? Look at my bank account. I told you I'm broke. Like, you don't understand. Like, look, like, you don't see this? You know, you're going to find the evidence to back up whatever it is that you believe. So it's very important to know what your beliefs are. And I was like, I looked at her. I was like, you don't really believe that you can make $10,000 a month. If you believed that you can make $10,000 a month, you would have different action. 100%. I said, look, the upcoming month was August, last month. And I was like, let's say I write you a $10,000 check. It has your name on it, but you cannot cash this check until August 31st. But it's yours, 100%. You do the things that you're supposed to do as an entrepreneur. This check is yours. How would you show up? Seth, when I say her complete modality, she had a mental shift between what she thought was possible before and now what she thinks is possible because of what she believes. Because she believes that she's going to get $10,000 at the end of the month. She no longer thinks she needs 8 hours worth of sleep. She no longer thinks she doesn't have time to make 500 calls. She no longer thinks all her beliefs literally went out the window because of this new belief that she's guaranteed $10,000. I was like, that person that you've just become, that's the person you need to operate as for the next 2, 3, 4, 6 months, 1 year, right? Right. Regardless of whether or not you get that 10K, because what's going to happen is reality has to catch up to the effort that you've been putting in. It's law. It has to catch up. But what you're doing right now, you're like, oh, I'm going to make 10, 15 calls and I want to see it to believe it, right? I want to see the evidence first and then I'm going to go all in. Life doesn't work like that. You will never get to your goal. But if you're operating as that six-figure entrepreneur, if you're operating as the entrepreneur who does make 10 grand a year or who does make 10 grand a month, if you're operating as that person month in, month out, it's going to catch up. It's going to manifest. But you already have to be that person first. It's not the other way around.
Yeah. And again, it goes back into the belief, because you have to be able to commit and stay disciplined until reality does catch up to your actions, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So what we were able to do is change her routines, right? And I love to journal. We talked about this right before the call. I love to journal. I think it's something visceral. But more important than journaling is having written down your goals in a specific way. And when I say a specific way, at the end of 2018, I read a book called The 12-Week Year. So that book was really, really good. The premise of that book was no longer having these 1-year goals, right? Like completely killing off like Parkinson's law, right? Because I remember when I wanted to leave my W-2 job, people told me that it was going to take me about 10 years to completely replace my income. The really savvy people in the industry told me it could take 5 years, give or take. But because of what I understood about Parkinson's law, I gave myself a 2-year timeline, right? And I think we said we were going to eventually get to this. I gave myself a 2-year timeline. Again, I could be nowhere near 2 years. I could be nowhere near my goal, which luckily I was, but I could be nowhere near my goal. But because that's my time horizon, that's my timeline, the efforts and the steps that I take are going to be much different than if I gave myself a 10-year window. Imagine like what I would do day one if I knew I had 10 years. It would be a very baby step. But with 2 years, it's a much different type of step. So even if I don't hit my 2-year goal, I'd be way further along just having that as a goal. So anyways, I read the book called The 12-Week Year, and it just kind of shifted the fact that, hey, like having a 1-year goal, which is what we do at the beginning of the year, having a 1-year goal is okay, but it's not tangible. You can't really plan out 365 days. You can't really exact what it is you need to be doing today to meet a goal a year out, to meet a goal 10 months out. So the concept of the 12-week year is to have a 12-week year and to reset your year every 12 weeks. It's much easier to know where you need to be in 3 months and to start a task this week that's going to get you there in 3 months. It's so much easier, right? It's so much easier as far as planning. It's so much easier as far as getting actually to your goal, like meeting your goal, right? It makes so much of a difference. So now I operate with the 12-week year in everything that I do. And I use 90-day journals to help me do that. So my most important things are journaling. I love reading and then taking a whole lot of books and podcasts and information. But every once in a while, you still need a dump from that per se. But I love journaling, and I think if there's a component of your morning routine that you need to implement is journaling, but in the form of goal setting. If you want, again, use my strategy and make sure that it's in 90-day increments.
Yeah, I love it. Those are some really good tips. Let's hop over to a Keystone deal. So a deal that made a big impact on you and your business. Is there one that comes to mind?
I'm going to talk about one that that I think a lot of the listeners, hopefully if they're just now starting out or thinking about starting in real estate, thinking about starting to invest, they can relate to. So after I bought that first property, well, let's take it back. I wanted to create a life that allowed me to travel the world. Okay. That was my primary purpose for wanting to invest in real estate. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to live life on my own terms. I love sabbaticals. Like, I don't mean like going on vacation. I mean like being able to live somewhere for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, being a digital nomad. Like, it may sound crazy to some people, but that's literally the burning desire that I've always had. Again, going back to how I grew up and how I moved around a lot. When I first came across the notion of house hacking, I thought it was a fascinating concept. And the concept is basically like this. You buy a property, whether it's a single family home, it's a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. It could be even bigger, but let's just stick to these parameters. You buy a property and you live in one of the units. If it's a single family home, maybe you're living in the master bedroom or a smaller bedroom and you're renting out the other rooms, right? I have a client right now who actually just got a property under contract today, and it's a single family home with an attachment. He already has tenants in the attachment paying $750. He's going to live in the single family home. And while he's living there, he's going to renovate the single family home. He's also going to turn the garage into its own living space. So once he's done doing that and the tenant lease is up, he's going to move into the attachment. He's going to have a full family in the single family home and have another family in the other living space. Incredible. I didn't have that foresight at the time, right? I said, I just need to buy one of these properties that's a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, and I need to work this magic. Now, if you guys don't know what the magic is, let me break it down for you. So basically, I bought a fourplex. I lived in one of the units, okay? Because I lived in one of the units, I now eliminated my biggest expense, well, my second biggest expense. We already talked about Uncle Sam, but let's just say I was paying $1,500 in rent. That $1,500 that I used to pay in rent is completely gone, like completely, right? And it's not gone as if now I'm putting that money towards this fourplex. It's gone as in I no longer have to pay that money. Why? Because I have tenants to the other 3 units. The tenants in those 3 units pay enough rent to not only cover my mortgage, but pay me on top of that. So in essence, I'm getting paid to live for free. Okay. Like, there's nothing better. There's no better way to get started. I am getting paid to live for free. I want you guys to hear that again. I'm getting paid for the opportunity to live for free. What this also means is that most people go on vacation for 2 weeks and they have to pay their rent at the beginning of the month or their mortgage at the end of the month, right? That you have to do that, or you're going to be homeless. I go on vacation and it doesn't have to be 2 weeks because, again, those 2 weeks, you're paying your mortgage and you're paying your hotel bill. I'm just focused on my hotel bill. I can be gone as long as I want. There's no limit to how long I can be gone. It's crazy. It's madness. If you haven't yet considered house hacking and you're in a position to do so, you need to do it. So, but not only that, I still had a W-2 job at the time, meaning that all of my income was taxable, all of my income, right? So again, they were taking out 50% of my money. But now that I have real estate, because of depreciation, because of tax benefits, because I now have a business, I have write-offs. I have certain tax breaks and incentives, right? So I'm no longer being taxed on the gross that I make at work. I'm being taxed on a netter, that's not even a word, on a netter amount, if that makes any sense without confusing you guys, right? It's absolutely phenomenal. There's no better way to get started. There's no better way to start building your snowball. So that deal, it was a fourplex, it was a house hack, and it's simply the best way I think to get started till this day.
Yeah, no, 100%, because you look at taxes and housing are our two biggest expenses that we have. And if you can eliminate or minimize those two, like you said, you were so much better off.
Yeah. Just again, for me, it's all about lifestyle. And I think that's what attracted me to the house. Because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want a house hack. I don't want to have neighbors. I don't want to live in my tenant's house. That's going to be. And I totally get all of those things. And I probably wouldn't have been the type of person to house hack a single family home just because those reasons. But house hacking an actual duplex, triplex, or fourplex, it's very different. It's very, very different. And I think especially if you believe in delayed gratification, I think you can endure that just to reap the benefits, right? And we haven't even talked about the normal benefits of real estate. Like, you have these tenants who are not only they're paying your mortgage every single month. So basically, it's like they're filling up your piggy bank. Okay? They're basically filling up a piggy bank for you while they pay you to live for free, while the market appreciates. Okay, I'm just like, when I first heard these things, I was just mind blown. I was like, why isn't everybody doing this? What is going on? Right? It sounds crazy, but these are the benefits of real estate.
Yeah, 100%. But the thing is, like, even if somebody, hears the information, like, let's say they read Rich Dad Poor Dad, if they don't actually do anything about it, it doesn't matter, right?
Yep. And I think that's the biggest thing. And we've talked about it. It's just like, dude, like, so many people hear these things. They hear these concepts. They're just like, I understand it, but I don't think most people understand it viscerally, or most people don't think it's possible for them, right? One of the biggest questions, and it's probably your number one question as well. My number one question is always, how do I get started in real estate? How much money do I need down? How do I start investing, right? And I mean, to be truthful, there's so many answers. So I always tell people, of course you could be a flipper. Of course you could be a wholesaler. You could be a rental property owner. You could buy notes. You could invest in land. You could do mobile home parks. You could be a syndicator. Like, the list goes on. So let's take a step back and be like, okay, Daray, Seth, like, I understand that every single one of these vehicles, you could be a realtor, like, you could be a professional, you could be an appraiser, you could be a loan signing agent, right? You could work at the title company. I don't care, but every single thing in real estate makes money. And sticking to investing, all those vehicles make money. So let's take money out of the equation, because that's not the most important thing, right? It's never been the most important thing. Money is a tool. Let's take money out of the equation just for a second. We're going to come back to it, because that's why a lot of people want to invest in real estate. We're going to come back to it, but let's focus on the most important thing, which is you, right? It's the individual. So I always tell people, okay, you want to get started in real estate. I'm not going to tell you, oh, my vehicle is the best. Come do what I do. Come do some creative finance, or come invest in apartments. Like, I don't know if you should do that. You don't know if you should do that, right? Like, yes, this makes money. Yes, that makes money. But what are some of the other ancillary things that I need to think about, right? So for me personally, I have 3 questions. Let me actually pull them up, because I actually was in the middle of creating a PDF. I have 3 questions to help people get started in real estate. Those 3 questions are: what type of lifestyle do you ultimately want? And I'm going to get to exactly why this question is important, if it's not already obvious. But what type of lifestyle do you ultimately want? Number 2, how do you want real estate to facilitate that lifestyle? And number 3, by when? Mm-hmm. Right? Because I started off thinking that, hey, I need to put down a $20,000, $30,000 down payment to collect $300 a month. That was my very first property, right? It was a $165,000 home, and the rent was $1,500, and I was collecting about $250 in net. And I was thinking, well, man, how many more 20K down payments or 30K down payments do I need to make to be able to make 5 to 10 grand a month? It's like, well, I have to come up with a lot of these down payments. Again, because of those 3 questions that I asked, it's not about the money. It's about you and your personal situation and your goals. Because of my goals, again, my goal was to escape the rat race in 2 years. By any stretch of the imagination, how many more 20K down payments would I need to fit in a 2-year span to get to 5K or 10K a month? A whole lot. So again, you have to think about, when you're thinking about your strategy, you have to think about what your specific goals are. And that'll tell you everything. If you're just looking to subsidize your W2 income, you love your job, you're a pharmacist, and you would never leave, I understand you buying a single rental once every 2 years or twice a year, whatever it is, and slow coasting like that because of your goals. So don't start with the vehicle. Start with what it is that you want and by when, right? That's the first exercise I want people to kind of walk through. And then those are the first 2 questions. I actually have 4 more questions to help people just kind of get on their way, because a lot of people, like literally DMs, Twitter, Facebook Messenger, emails, every single day there's somebody, how do I get started in real estate? Where do I go? Like, again, I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, my strategy is the best. Come to me. I got you, right? I'm going to tell you exactly how to go about filtering through that process, right? So those next 4 questions are, what's your commitment level, right? How much capital do you have access to? How much time are you willing to dedicate? What is your experience / education in real estate, if any, right? And I say if any because you don't need a whole lot to get started, right? You just need to know where you are, because if you know where you are, you know what vehicles best suit you. Again, I have a matrix where it's like over 100 vehicles that you can possibly pursue down real estate. How do you know the best one? You ask yourself those first 3 questions about where it is that you want and where you want to go. Then you see what you're working with. Okay, what's your commitment level? If your commitment level is not all that high, I may say wholesaling may not be the best thing for you. Cold calling and door knocking may not be the best thing for you if your commitment level is not all that high. But let's say you have a ton of money. Well, maybe you should partner with the syndicator. You should invest with the syndicator and have him invest for you, right? So you have to kind of balance, okay, what's my commitment level? How much capital do I have access to? How much time am I willing to dedicate? And what is my experience / education? Once you answer those 4 in a total of 7 questions, I think it'll become a whole lot more clearer which path you need to take down real estate. If you don't mind, Seth, I actually, again, I have a PDF that I haven't finished working on, but by the time this episode releases, if people want that PDF, I actually walk them through that exercise. And then I have examples showing them every single real estate vehicle. And I have like a little blurb that shows them, hey, this is what this real estate vehicle is, which if you want to know more about this vehicle, here's a 45-minute podcast episode that completely talks about that vehicle. And then I have examples for people to follow. So it's like at the end of the exercise, everybody that goes through the survey, they're going to know exactly how they should get started in real estate. So if people want access to that, I'm going to create a link. It's going to be at beforethemillions.com/SETH. Seth.
I like it. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it.
Definitely, my man. It's an honor to, again, I just want to get people a whole lot more clarity, because it's so easy for us to hear a podcast or go to YouTube and the first thing we say, okay, this is it. Let me just go ahead and do this. And then 10 months later, it's not working, or 10 months later, it's not what you wanted. Or like me, like I started down rentals and I was just like, how do I come up with more 20K down payments? I wish I would have, so I love to kind of help people get clarity in the beginning. And I think that gives people more confidence to move forward in whatever path they choose.
Oh, well, 100%. And last question. Looking ahead 10 years from now, so a decade, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
So I'm one of those people that I try to live a version, and it may sound totally nuts now that I'm actually trying to formulate words around it. I try to live my best life now. So I'm not saying I don't have any goals. I have a ton of goals, monumental, massive goals. But let's just say those goals are to speak in front of a 30,000 person audience, right? I'm going to live that goal now by speaking in front of a 100-person audience. Let's say it's to have the top 5 real estate podcasts in the world. I'm going to have that goal now by being a top 100 real estate podcast in the world, right? Let's say it's to live ultimately as a digital nomad and travel and be gone for 8 months at a time. I'm going to live that life now and be gone for 8 weeks at a time, right? So there's nothing that everything that I want to do, I try to go ahead and pursue that and be in that space now, if that makes any sense.
No.
For a long time, I would always tell myself, when I get here, once I get to this point, once I do this, and you realize, and I'm still in my 20s, but I've been able to realize through some seasoning that you can't, as much as I preach about delayed gratification, you cannot wait to live your life with anything. There were so many years I spent building this business. I sacrificed time with my family rather than scheduling time with my family. Like I thought that's what an entrepreneur was supposed to do, right? So my 10-year vision is more or less a little bit how I'm living today. Helping as many people as I can, maybe on a bigger platform, maybe with a bigger audience, maybe with more money and more resources. But doing what I'm doing today is my 10-year plan, more of it.
Yeah, I like it. So, Daray, you mentioned, the download the PDF. If somebody's looking to check out your podcast, maybe learn more about your coaching and all that stuff, where can they find you?
Yes. I love that, Seth. This has been a pleasure. And if anybody wants to hear a little bit more about my story, find the podcast, head over to beforethemillions.com. I also am a big fan of Instagram. That's where I go to connect with a ton of people. If you want to shoot me a DM, ask me a quick question. My handle is my first and last name, Daray Olaleye, DarayOlaleye. Or if it makes it easy for you, head over to beforethemillions.com/Instagram, and it'll take you straight to my Instagram.
No, that's great. Well, I just want to say thanks so much for taking the time, and try not to float away in the flood.
No problem. Hey, it's one of those things, and especially down here in the South, it's that season right now, and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's a learning opportunity for a lot of people. It's a growth opportunity. It's a chance for families to come together, and overall, I mean, as usual, we work through it and we find a way, and we come out better on the other side. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks again. It was a pleasure. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.